Good afternoon. Today is Monday, July 12th, 2021. It is 5:02 p.m. and we're here for the regular trustee meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Are there any additions or modifications?
Yes, Board, I have two. Under IT, please add biweekly activity report. And then before adjourning the meeting, we need to add an executive session per Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the employment and compensation of public employees. And it's already on your printed copy in front of you.
Did you indicate you want to do that during the meeting or at the end of the meeting?
At the end of the meeting,
Okay,
before we
that's
adjourn.
what I thought. Okay. Any other changes or additions?
Hearing none, I'll move to approve the agenda for the July 12, 2021 meeting as amended.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Krutz?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $377,714.07 for the June 30th, 2021 payroll.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Krutz?
Yes.
I move to accept the payment listing report in the amount of $603,676.86 for warrants through July 8th, 2021.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Krutz?
Yes. And at this point, we have minutes from the June 28th, 2021 meeting. Is there any changes or additions, modifications, suggestions? If not, we have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to accept the minutes for the June 28th, 2021 regular trustee meeting.
June 24th.
It's June
June 28th.
28th.
Oh, it's 28, 24 on here. Sorry.
Mine says 28. You got the right- Oh, the motion is wrong. You're correct.
Motion.
Yeah, the agenda's correct.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Krutz?
Yes. This time we have any citizens desiring to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to our pre-scheduled speakers. Mr. Zahariff, if you want to tee them up, please.
Thank you. First on the agenda is Marty Heide from Congressman Turner's office.
Thank you very much. I'm Marty Heide, and I'm Greene County Outreach for Congressman Mike Turner. And it's been my job in the past to come and keep you informed of stuff that's going on, sort of as a public service announcement. And tonight I want to talk about the COVID-19 Funeral Assistance Program. It was passed in the legislation in December of 2020, the American Relief Act, and this allows people who have lost loved ones to COVID-19 to file a claim for reimbursement of funeral expenses. And I passed out these. This is kind of a cheat sheet, one-page itemized. FEMA is the agency that's been appointed to handle the claims that have been submitted, and it starts with a phone call. So everyone makes a phone call, and you sign up that way, and they tell you what to submit, how to submit it. And they don't assume that everyone has a printer and a scanner and all of this. So they will tell you based upon your technology, what you have in the way of technology. It's up to $9,000 that you can claim. So this is not a small potato claim. This is a big deal. And it's a difficult topic because obviously we're mourning those that we have lost, but you can file for a little bit of reimbursement for everything, flowers, headstone, all of that, as long as you have your receipts. And so the person that paid for that funeral would be the person that would be applying. There's frequently asked questions down here that you can go onto the website. This is what's covered, and then here's some things to be eligible that you can pass along. And again, this is something Congressman Turner sent out a mass mailing to churches and funeral homes in the district so that they would know that this was in effect. The first applications were taken around the middle of April, and so far I've been tracking one in particular, and it was just released. It was like a $3,500 reimbursement. So it takes about 2.5 months. The first week with FEMA was touch and go. It was very busy, as you can imagine, with people applying. But so far, the state of Ohio has made 7,500 applications for a total of $13 million, give or take some, and 2,174 have been approved. So, you know, Ohio is right up there with all the states. But as you guys are out and about in the community, you know people, talk about this, encourage people to call the number. It's an 800 number. Be patient, because if the line is busy, you can call our office, but we're not on the phone. So you need to make sure that you call back and you're patient. That's not always the most desirable attribute to have, but anyway, so spread the word. It's very important that people know that they can file for this. Any questions? I will answer a question about death certificates that are required. If they don't say COVID-19, and if they say something else, you can get the death certificate amended. I don't know how to do that per se, but I know you go back to the medical examiner and you have the medical records reviewed to see if they can amend that.
I have a question, an off-the-wall question you'd have to get back to me on. But I'd like to see what, as Congressman Turner, to see if we can get numbers eventually on the uptick in Social Security monies because of all the deaths that happened with COVID that the federal government has registered, that all those Social Security payments that have not been paid should be able to go back into the Social Security fund.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
I'd like to see what we would, how long that fund would, it's supposed to go to 2035. See how much longer the
Okay.
Social Security fund could be extended because of what has happened.
Okay, I will ask that question.
Thank you.
It's a tough topic, but yeah. Any other questions? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty.
See you tomorrow night.
Good.
And Max, you want to introduce the?
All right, thank you, Board. So we have today, yes. This is Max McConnell, Economic and Zoning Administrator. We have Courtney Lay here, who's an MPA student from Wright State University. She participated in, I believe this was classified as an independent study project, amounts to a capstone project where we tasked her with looking at funding opportunities for a multi-use path along Treybine. This was in conjunction with the Greene County Engineer's Office. So she's been working with Stephanie in our office to kind of not only identify potential aspects of the trail, but how we can engage our community to kind of figure out what they want and also how to fund it. So I'll let her speak for herself here, but Courtney, if you will.
Okay, cool. Hi, I am Courtney Lay, and I'm actually a recent graduate
That's right.
of the MPA. This is one of my last presentations, and I'm done, so that's very exciting. From Wright State, and like Max said, I've been working over the past couple months to put together a funding guide for the Treybine bike path. Oh, there we go. All right, so what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, I'll tell you about the project and the current timeline and budget that they've got put aside for the bike path. I'll talk a little bit about funding pools that I researched and some information on those, and then recommendations and tips for moving forward. So a little bit about the project. Originally, this was presented as a potential capstone, and I have always been really interested in grant writing. It's something I hope to do professionally at some point in my life. So I was very excited when they presented this, but I had already committed to another capstone. So I was like, oh, I really want to do both, which is kind of crazy, but I went for it. So I went ahead and took this as an independent study, and it's been such a great experience. I've really enjoyed working with everyone. The scope of the project, it changed a little bit. Originally, we were looking at trying to write a sample grant specific to Treebine for the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program, so the CMAQ grant. We don't really have quite enough information on the details of the bike path at this point, so I couldn't do that. What it turned into is actually researching a bunch of different funding pools and just giving some resources, some information on which ones would be eligible for this project. So one thing that I looked at too were the benefits of having this kind of built environment in the area. And for residents in Greene County, having a bike path can increase mental and physical health. It's good for community safety, and it's also really good for the environment. So, and those are all things too that if you look at your handout, I've talked a little bit about the benefits and also the connection throughout the Miami Valley is really impressive. Ohio, statewide, we have some of the best networks for bike trails. And so with already having 330 miles of connected trails in the Miami Valley, this is just adding to that, and it's really impressive. So the aim is to have this bike path go from Creekside Trail to, is it Oaks Quarry Park? Yeah, about 9 miles. All right, so looking at the timeline for the project, there are 3 phases when you look at big construction projects like this. And right now, I would say that Treebine is in the preliminary engineering phase. So this is where you do a lot of your planning, you're looking for funding opportunities and collecting all of the data needed for that documentation that goes along with applications. The other 2 phases are right-of-way and construction. So right-of-way is any sort of land acquisition that's necessary to move the project forward, and then construction is actually building the bike path. I spoke with Tom Arnold at the Ohio Department of Transportation, as well as some people that work at the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, and they kind of gave me just some approximate time frames for each of these phases, which I've put up on the screen. It varies depending on the project. This was deemed as a short-term project because it was a very high priority for Greene County residents, according to the community engagement survey we took last year. So because it's a short-term project, they're hoping it'll take between 1 and 5 years. It might take a little bit longer, just depending, but that's kind of where we're at on the timeline. So project budget, in the master trails plan, Tool Design had put together a general planning level cost estimate for the construction phase of this project. So I took the way that they had broken it down and put it into a graphic form. Basically, when it comes to construction, that phase is going to cost about $6.3 million. That's just for construction. That doesn't count any of the right-of-way costs. It doesn't have any of the preliminary engineering costs included or any of the safety equipment that can go along with these projects, such as installing new traffic signals or crosswalks or anything like that. So some grants are going to be helpful. For eligible funding pools, I looked at about 10 to 12. Narrowed them down to 6 that really align with what we need for the Treebine bike path. I don't want to go necessarily through all the nitty-gritty details of these, but if you look at the back of your handout, there's a little summary chart there that shows you who distributes each of these, how much will be available, what projects, what you can use it for, and then also who can apply. So basically, if you took the information I put on that handout and gave all the details with it, that is what is inside the actual funding guide. I take each of these and lay out information such as links for any sort of questions, their resources, contact information, and then all of the specifics on how much you can apply for, when the deadline is for applying for it, and all that kind of good stuff. So I did want to say too, when it comes to these funding pools, the ones that I really focused on in the appendices of the document, and you guys are welcome to, I've got digital copies, so if any of you are interested in looking at it. In the appendices, I added a lot of documentation for CMAQ, transportation alternatives, People for Bikes, and then also the RAISE grant. Those ones are, I think, really the most applicable to this project in a lot of ways. So I put applications back there, some sample grants that you can compare, and other just lists of what documentation and reporting is needed. All right, the fun stuff. So my recommendations, these are my 3 overarching recommendations. First one being collaborate. This is a multi-jurisdictional project because Trebine's a county road. It goes through a lot of different jurisdictions. So it's really important that moving forward, Beavercreek Township works closely with the Greene County Engineer's Office and kind of keeps up with what it is that they need to keep the project moving forward. That kind of ties into with my second one, which is support. So a lot of these grant applications require supporting documentation, maybe traffic congestion reports, looking at air quality in the specific areas. There's a lot of things that each of the jurisdictions need to be able to provide them, including resolutions from each one that is participating in the bike path. So my recommendation to you guys is to just keep track with Stephanie what is needed to keep the project moving forward and do your best to get that documentation sent over in a timely manner. Last one is keep moving forward. So right now there's not a lot of detail on the specific locations of the path and what's needed to really get the project going. We're in the preliminary engineering stages, and so while there's a decent amount of information in the master trails plan, at this point it's very preliminary. So there's still a lot of detailing that needs to be done in order to apply for these grants, and so that's my suggestion. Keep working toward getting that stuff nailed out. In the funding guide, I had some tips for the actual application process, and this could really be for either Greene County or Beavercreek Township, depending on who takes lead. Typically, when you apply for multi-jurisdictional projects like this, you'll have one person take lead on the application and then get the resolutions from all the other jurisdictions. So one of my tips here would be to make a funding plan. A lot of the different pools have different ways that the money can be used. So if you're looking through, one might only be for construction, one might only be for the planning. So if you look at all of these different pools, some of them can be stacked, some of them can't. Some can be applied for more than once. So making that funding plan to kind of map out how you want to apply for everything and when would be really helpful. Another part of that too is figuring out how are you going to get the matching funds that are required for these, because not many of the grants will cover all of the costs. So a lot of it is, you know, maybe 80% of the cost, but I want you to have 20% non-federal matching funds. So how are you going to get those funds? Second one, aim high for matching funds. So what's kind of neat with, I'll use CMAQ as an example. That one requires at a minimum 20% non-federal match from the jurisdictions cooperating. So you can do just 20% and get a small amount of points on their evaluation for the grant. But if you can find a way to go 30%, 40% matching funds, they'll give you more points on the evaluation, which increases the odds of being approved for that funding. So aim high for matching. Focus on inclusivity and equity. This is a really big part of a ton of infrastructure projects right now. One of them was even called, what was it, Rebuild American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. So there's a really big push right now for making sure that all new infrastructure projects are inclusive and equitable. So when you are going to apply, or when Greene County goes to apply for any of these, narratively, I would suggest informing them on how this will add opportunities for people in the community that may have not been there before. How is it making it a more equitable transportation system? Set up required accounts. This one was just for grants.gov, WorksWise. There are a few of these grants that require having an account on a website, and that's the only way you can apply for it. And so I did want to mention, make sure you do this ahead of time, because some of them pend approval, and if you go in the day before the application is due to set up the account, then you might miss the deadline, and that would always be really rough after all the work you put in. Last one is user resources. So in this guide, I made sure to put in contact information for every single funding pool I looked at. So a lot of these people I contacted myself, they were very helpful. Everyone in this project has been very helpful. So if there are any questions throughout the process, that's a big one for me, is make sure to use the resources. All of them have plenty of online resources as well, and I've put links to those in the document too. All right, so I did want to leave some time for questions, but before I do that, I have to just send out like massive thank you to all of the people listed on the screen. Max especially, he has been a champ at helping me get through this project, answers all my emails, we had so many meetings, and same with Alex and Randy, you guys have been great. So I just really appreciate it. I don't have any background in planning, and I don't have much background in infrastructure projects, so this was all very new to me, and all of these people were very patient and great at getting back and answering my questions, so big thanks. There's a lot of talking. Any questions?
A couple of questions I had just on in your study or your report, so the three kind of key barriers to success as far as being able to achieve this trail system are right-of-way acquisition, at-grade crossings. So as far as how do you cross from one side to the other, how do you cross some of the streets that we have, and then connectivity to existing private trails that already run north-south along Trabine, but they're private.
Yep.
And so I don't know if your study addressed those three. And when I look at the funding pools, I don't see anything on there for right-of-way acquisition.
There is one.
Specifically.
Yeah, I think there's one or two that will cover all all costs, including right-of-way acquisition, but that is one of the bigger barriers, absolutely. And it's also one of the most time-consuming. So, yeah, this project primarily was a source of information for the funding pools, so I didn't get super into detail with the right-of-way acquisition, unfortunately. But you are right, that is one of the bigger barriers, and it's one of the bigger time consumers.
The only other two things I had was, number one, if you can, Max, if you can share with the board the electronic version of this report, would be great. And then lastly is, I don't know your background, but your presentation skills are excellent.
Well, thank you.
So,
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, really did a good job.
Yeah, thanks. Anyone else?
It's a great job.
I listen to a lot of people talk every day. I listen.
Yeah.
I try not to be too dry. Sometimes it's not very interesting, but I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed this. I think that makes a difference when you're presenting about something, and it was a great project. I learned so much, so it's been good.
And I appreciate you did a really nice job on the concise one page. That was very, very nifty.
Awesome.
So
I'm glad
Max,
you
are
guys
you
like
going to be heading up this project?
Thankfully, county engineer will be spearheading this, but we plan on providing a lot of support.
You can give her the Bible here of what to do and
Yeah,
follow
well,
through.
that's what we're hoping, is to really be able to give her a strong start, and then as we meet and we're given action items, just complete them and do our part. So,
I know that'll make a lot of township people happy about having a.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Was your budget for construction based on today's dollars or future dollars? How far did you
This is
project?
what they had in the Master Trails plan, and it was based on, oh shoot, I can't remember. I can even remember the page number in the Master Trails plan. So I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you.
And Max, that's just something I would recommend that they look
Yeah.
at, because in 2014, when I came to the board, they were looking at the highway overpass and underpass project, and they were quoting dollars in the $120, $130 million range, but those dollars were actually in 2011.
Not accounting for inflation.
Even 2014,
Yeah.
and so just something to make sure to keep those numbers in front of us, is especially when we project if it takes 3 years to get the right of way, get it engineered, try to project what those future dollars will be in construction, because otherwise you never get to the finish line. You're trying to get 20% of something that it's phantom as far as a number.
I'd be glad to work with regional planning to kind of figure out whether or not they do, and if not, suggest that
They should, yeah.
I do think there's a note that addresses that, and I'm gonna say page 78, Master Trails Plan.
Okay.
So check that out, cause I'm pretty sure there is a little asterisk that explains whether or not it's based on today's numbers or not. So, yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah,
Great job,
thank
Courtney.
you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, we have no old business as far as new business.
Thank you, Board. Due to several scheduling conflicts, how about that? I'm recommending that we cancel the regular meeting on July 26th, trustee meeting. There is a motion on page 3. Go ahead and cancel it. Once we cancel it, we'll send out a public meeting notice tomorrow, canceling the meeting for the 26th. We do have a special meeting already scheduled this month for case 821, which is on Wednesday.
Okay.
So we have a motion.
I move to cancel the July 26, 2021 regular trustee meeting.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is the biweekly report in your packet
One,
on
I'm
page
sorry,
16.
one quick question
Yep.
on that. Mr. Rushing, is there anything that we, from an approval standpoint, that you need either a special meeting for prior to or shortly thereafter? Just make sure we don't.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that.
Green County? Sure.
Thank you, Board. Next item's on page 16 of your packet is the bi-weekly report for the Sheriff's Office, followed by the monthly report on page 39. Sergeant Moore is on Teams here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Sergeant Moore? Any awareness items, Sergeant Moore, as far as that we need to be?
No, sir, just, was able to circle back with the soccer field folks. They were pleased, everything was good, there. We worked, recently with, the city of Beavercreek for traffic control, for the 4th of July for the Dayton Xenia Beaver Valley intersections and Dayton Xenia Orchard intersections. That went well. Just everybody out here is continuing to do a good job and positive reactions from the community.
Thank you. Any questions?
Did you have any problems with the 4th of July fireworks in the township?
We didn't have, I guess, I wouldn't say problems. Don't know that I would say problems. I think every year there's always going to be people setting them off, and so it's kind of a pick and choose at that point. But for the most part, it was actually very good.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had nothing additional. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next item's on page 50 of your packet is the bi-weekly report for HR. Are there any questions?
I had no questions.
Any questions?
I had nothing. Thank you.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next item's on page 53. Oh, sorry. Next item's on page 53 of your packet is the bi-weekly report for the Community Development and Rest Department. Are there any questions that Max can answer?
Looks like you guys were busy. Zoning activity.
Very busy these months.
Yeah.
I was confused on one part of your, on the report for zoning on, you had talked with Mr. Parks about a minor modification that would allow 2 sections of sidewalks that were approved, and then they're planning not to build them then?
That's
I
correct.
didn't,
So,
Step.
thank you. So, actually, last Thursday, the zoning commission heard the minor modification case, I believe it's 671-A. We were made aware by actually the county engineer, who told us that a resident had requested some information from her why this section of sidewalk had not been built according to plan. We found out that this was one of the last houses that got built in the neighborhood, so typically they wait until they build the house to build the sidewalk so they don't crush it up. As the developer was made aware of this, he approached us and said, look, a sidewalk from South Prestonwood to Treybine would be a sidewalk to essentially nowhere. There's nowhere to cross Treybine. In fact, it's very dangerous to cross Treybine on foot. And he felt, the developer felt that this would encourage foot traffic across Treybine. After we met as a staff, we agreed with that assessment. So we got a opinion from Stephanie, the county engineer. She actually did not agree with that. So it was a bit of a debate during zoning commission, but in the end they decided that yes, putting those sidewalks in would encourage people to try and cross Treybine over to White Barns trails, and we really want to not. We really like to discourage that. So they do not have to put in the sidewalk now, although they are required to make the existing ramps ADA compliant, which they are not currently. So,
Was there any way that you could have suspended them putting in sidewalks at this time with the caveat that they would have to do it at a later date when Treybine became renovated?
that was likely a possibility. You know, the zoning commission can kind of modify recommendations or put conditions on them to change as they see fit. That wasn't one of staff's recommended kind of alternative options, only because, kind of as we just heard, the plans for bike paths along Treybine are still nebulous enough that, you know, it would be saying essentially postpone it until we hear differently. We wouldn't be able to put an end date on it. So that was kind of the reason we didn't really explore that. That's not to say that we can't revisit that. Should, you know, trails come across that side of Treybine, we can't revisit that decision and maybe with new information require those get built. So
The other, you can't force the developer when it's 100% built out. So in other words, if we say in condition of, so 10 years from now, let's say a multi-use path or a traffic light goes in, that could encourage transfer. At that point, we can't force anybody to put it in. It would have to be on the homeowners, and they would have to, homeowners association, they would have to agree to it. So we did, the county engineer did put signs up discouraging people crossing Treybine Road. So there are actual signs up now at both intersections. So we try and encourage as much foot traffic to the tunnel system that's already in place, although we've had a major crash from the tunnel system.
Yeah, it's down.
And it's dangerous right now, so it's temporarily closed, which brought most of these questions to light, which with a major or minor modification, and that just goes to the zoning commission. It doesn't eventually come to the board.
Right.
Major modifications, as we saw last meeting, do come to the board after zoning recommendations.
So if the tunnel is down and it's closed, then people are going to cross.
That's why the
The
signs
road.
are up, and we've
They
encouraged.
shouldn't, but they
Yeah,
do.
they should.
But they,
Yeah,
so then wouldn't you,
well, the tunnel's gonna be fixed this month.
Yeah, tunnel's
Yeah,
a
it's
4 to
there.
6 week problem.
Yeah, you know, it's, they had to get a new mold for the side of it, and, you know, it was almost like a perfect storm, if you will. I mean, we were just talking about bike trails and tunnels and everything as part of the development, and then there was a car crash the next day that put the concrete wall that's on the top portion of the tunnel, it was leaning. So, the engineer at that point decided to close the tunnel. So, the tunnel itself is okay, they just have to
Okay, just
redo that
redo-
concrete, yeah.
strengthen the wall?
Yeah, and it did what it was supposed to. I went up there, the county engineer was on scene. The car was actually sitting up on the barrier, that's what it's designed to do, to prevent it from going down into the tunnel area where the bike path comes across. So,
Yeah, I never heard if anybody was in the tunnel when it happened, but
No.
it held the car up there.
yeah, it did what it was supposed to, designed to do. Unfortunately, it pushed it a little bit, and the concern was it was gonna completely fall, and we didn't want anybody walking, or county engineer. didn't
Oh,
want
yeah.
anybody walking underneath, so.
The subject sidewalk is on the west side of Treybine, and the multipurpose trail is on the east side of Treybine, so it truly would be a sidewalk to nowhere.
Yeah, it is truly a sidewalk to nowhere.
Thank
If it
you.
were on the other side, then you'd want to connect it to
Yeah.
the trail, which would make logical sense.
And
you
just
can't
like the
force them to do it,
presentation,
that's-
we are, the discussion on what side the bike trail is gonna go on Trebine is truly a multi-jurisdictional discussion, because it affects township roads, but it also affects City of Fairborn roads. And then we have a major park, Hobson Park in the township that's used frequently, and, as the board knows, the, Greene County Parks and Trails has opened it up and added a lot of things, so we're seeing a lot more foot traffic, from City of Fairborn crossing Trebine into Beavercreek Township to the park. So, city manager in Fairborn, myself, and the county engineer are constantly, discussing safety up there and what we need to do and what side the trail should be on.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you, board. Next item is not in your packet. It was a handout. Did go out as a no report. We did have a IT issue on Thursday that I made the board aware of, so the biweekly report didn't get to me in time for the packet. It did get to me on Thursday, so so I have it print out in front of you. So nothing new. We did take care of the IT issue. It was a great response from Paragon and working with staff to address the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. Next item is on page 63. First item we have under road department is a resolution to surplus 2 Ford F-250s and the ARM mower. There is a resolution in your packet. You can pass a motion as presented.
And on the arm mower itself, we have no use for it as far as spare parts or as a backup if our other one were to go down.
No, we do not. That mower arm is like 21 years old.
Okay.
It's
So-
become pretty unreliable.
So it's just the arm itself, it's not the arm and mower?
Well, arm and one mower
Okay.
head, well, but the other hand, we are gonna try to, put on gum deals and see what we can get out of it.
Okay. Okay.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 20210712-road-A. Resolution finding certain township equipment to be surplus and to dispose of it as presented.
Second.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Kreutz.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Next item is the biweekly report for the road department. Is there any questions?
Mr. Parks, I just had a compliment, that the fencing around the equipment back here at the township looks really nice. Guys did a nice job.
Well, thank you. It was a project that took us a while to get, but we can take that to go.
Yeah. Nice job.
And an informational item is actually planing of, our paving project started today. So hopefully everything will be paved by the end of the week, weather dependent.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Parks?
Nothing additional.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. Next item is on page 67 of your packet. First item is a request, purchase request for a gear washer for Station 65. Actually, the first 2 purchase requests are related to owner supplied items for Station 65. First one is for the gear washer. Budget justification starts on page 67 with a motion on page 68. And fire chief's here to answer any questions.
Any questions on the purchase request? Okay, I move to approve purchase request 21-fire-0956 to CSC Service Works for Station 65 turnout gear washer in the amount of $11,303.27 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is a purchase request for Station 65, the tower, the antenna tower. Budget justification starts on page 68 with a motion on page 69. We only received one quote back, but it is under the budgeted amount that we had in our budget request in November of last year, or excuse me, December of last year. Chief's here to answer any questions.
Chief, did we follow up with the two that no quoted or did not respond? Did they actually no quote or did they just not respond at all? Did we follow up with them to find out why?
I'll actually defer that answer to Chief Easter. He's on here and he's been handling Station 65.
Okay.
Yes, we've actually had problems getting the tower itself, as quoted as part of the project. It was put out for bid with the fire station and no responses were bid, including solicited from multiple vendors. These were two of them that we reached back out to because they knew they were doing some work in this southwest corner of Ohio for the state of Ohio, and we got no response back. Basically, when we tried to call back our contacts through the state of Ohio, they were just too busy. Didn't have the capacity to do the work that we needed to do. They were tied up with existing projects.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No. I make a motion to approve purchase request 21-fire-0958 to P&R Communications for the Station 65 Tower Erection Project Management and Grounding in the amount of $92,625 and to authorize the Township Administrator to sign for the Board.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is request to purchase and replacement of our SCBA's and associated equipment associated with the SCBA project. As the Board recalls, we did receive a federal grant to help offset the cost of the SCBA project that is end of life this year. Budget justification starts on page 69 with motions all the way back on page 72. Two motions there. Both chiefs have been involved with this project, so they'll be able to answer any questions.
What was the amount of the grant that we received?
The federal portion of the award is $405,750, and then there's a 10% match requirement.
Okay, that's, okay, I was thinking it was closer to 500,000, that's why I didn't know if there was another portion of it, so, but it was 450,000, essentially our 10%
10%.
plus the 90% from the federal grant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
That's correct.
450,000 plus, it's really more than that, okay.
I move to approve purchase request 21-fire-0888 to Finley Fire Equipment DBA Atlantic Emergency Solutions for the SCBA Associated Equipment and SCBA Fill Station in the amount of $812,327.25 and to authorize the Township Administrator to sign for the Board.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 21-fire-0889 to Fire and Marine for SCBA mounting and medic units in the amount of $9,415 and to authorize the Township Administrator to sign for the Board.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is a surplus resolution. There is the information in your packet regarding the, and a sample motion in your packet, so you can pass it as presented, and we have a hard copy here to sign.
Any questions on the disposition of equipment?
I make a motion for resolution authorizing resolution number 202-107-12-Fin-A, adoption July 12, 2021.
Board,
Sorry,
that's,
wrong one.
that's the,
What
that's
page?
finances.
That's fine.
Oh.
That's a different one.
Sound 77.
Yeah, page 77.
Here's a hard copy if you need it.
Yes,
Okay, I saw that, but I didn't think that was a real resolution.
very good.
Okay. I make a motion for resolution number 202-10712-fire-E. A resolution finding certain township equipment to be surplus and authorizing the fire chief to dispose of it.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. I'll turn it over to staff to give you a fire station update.
And actually, since Chief Easter is here, I'll let him give you probably a little bit more detail than what we have in the packet today. And happy to report that we did have permanent power turned on to the station as of this afternoon.
Ooh.
And 2 of the 4 HVAC units were fired up when I left this afternoon. They were planning to get at least 3 of them fired up today and charged and working in operational condition. And the phenolic paneling that goes on the entrance and the front and north side of the building was started to be installed today as well. So we are making a lot of progress very quickly.
Good.
Awesome.
And casework will begin tomorrow, so they're actually expediting that. It was scheduled for next week. They're going to start tomorrow.
Is the generator installed already or not?
Yes.
Okay, and so was that fired, that's functional at this point?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Board. Last item is the biweekly report.
I had no questions.
No questions?
Thank you. I had none.
Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Take care, gentlemen.
Thank you, Board. That's all I have.
Ms. Frick?
Nothing.
Mr. Rushing?
Thank you, Board. Just one resolution for your consideration is to establish a new fund, the American Rescue Plan Act Fund. This fund is a requirement to receipt Federal American Rescue Plan Act monies that are enacted by Congress and signed by the President. This is the recovery, as it were, to the COVID-19 pandemic. The uses for this federal dollars have been a little different from previous with the CARES Act. Chiefly among those is the ability to calculate reimbursements for funds that have received a negative impact due to COVID-19. Like many things, there's a lot of U.S. Treasury guidance and regulation that I know staff is going through and making sure that we are utilizing to the best of our knowledge the available funds for that. The township is classified as a non-entitlement unit, or an NEU, as the American Rescue Plan establishes. As a non-entitlement unit, our dollars go through the state of Ohio first and get dispersed from the state to the local jurisdiction. As the board recalls, this was not a guarantee due to some typos with the recent congressional act. Townships were omitted from the federal act, but through interpretation from the U.S. Treasury, it allowed the state of Ohio to dictate whether or not townships were eligible for this fund. State of Ohio interpreted that townships were, and Beavercreek Township will receive approximately $647,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds. So by establishing this fund, we receipt the revenue with that, and then make the appropriate expenditures based off of the guidance from the U.S. Treasury. The first step is to calculate, to the best of our ability, the revenue lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Other allowable uses would be, there's a lot of effort and emphasis on public utilities such as internet broadband and sanitary sewer, water, stormwater. Many of those items the township does not participate in directly, so be first to use it to recover any revenue loss. There's a resolution in your packet on page 78. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. The disbursement will come in two disbursements, one Once we pass this fund, we will register with the state of Ohio in order to receive those funds. And then the second disbursement will occur 6 months after we receive the first disbursement, so early 2022. And the disbursements are exactly 50% in each allotment.
Any questions for Mr. Rushing?
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-0712-FIN-A. Resolution authorizing the establishment of the American Rescue Plan Act Fund as presented.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Chris?
Yes,
Thank you. That's all I have.
thank you.
Mr. Rushing, I'd just like to thank you for being on top of this and getting this moving as quickly as you did, since it's just been approved, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
MVRPC,
No meetings this month.
TAC,
No report?
Greene County Regional Planning. We actually have a special meeting tomorrow at the Executive Committee at 11 a.m. and we're interviewing via Zoom a candidate for the planner position. It's an individual that's from out of state that has excellent credentials and has expressed strong interest in the position. So, and then our Executive Committee will have a regular meeting on the 20th of this month, and then the full commission meeting will follow that. Health Department?
Yes.
I had one other thing on Greene County Regional Planning. So one of the items that is going to come up is the City of Bellbrook has reached out to the regional planning and asked them to put together a proposal for code enforcement. They had a recent individual left City of Bellbrook that was handling those responsibilities. And so they reached out to regional planning. The planning department is obviously down staff based on Devin going to kind of less than part-time. He's got a full-time job and he's helping out part-time doing subdivision review. So they reached out to the executive committee and asked if we supported essentially, because Rhonda and Deandra both have a code enforcement background. And so if the executive committee supported regional planning quoting that work for the City of Bellbrook, as part of the 2021 budget, Devin had put together essentially a budget line item, a revenue item, where they would essentially sell some contract services from regional planning to the participants that were part of it. My concern, and that I'll voice tomorrow, is that we're already down. We have an individual who's learning the position. I don't know from a regional planning standpoint if it's the best timing to take on a third-party contract with another jurisdiction outside of learning the job, taking over, and things like that. So I didn't know if Beavercreek Township had been approached, number one, and turned it down, or number two, if Beavercreek Township had interest in that as far as contracted services.
We can certainly reach out to the city manager to have that discussion to see after whatever decision regional planning makes. I mean,
I don't even know capacity-wise if it's
yeah,
something
we would
take
have
on or
to
not.
we would have to look at it. I mean, they're really two different codes in
Right.
regards to city ordinances and zoning resolutions in the unincorporated areas. So yeah, I can definitely.
Just
the
have
city
an internal
manager is-
discussion, if
yeah,
someone can,
yeah.
just give an indication. So
Sure.
that meeting's tomorrow at 11. If we have no interest, my opinion wouldn't change necessarily. It's just a matter of
Sure.
injecting another option for them. So Ernie will be on there, and so it'll be just making sure that we are covered. That was it. Sorry. Health Department.
Thank you, Board. I did attend the Health Department meeting for Trustee Dean. A couple just overall items that we did hear a presentation regarding, well, first of all, the Board says congratulations. So I'll pass that on. Couple items. They're looking at a strategic plan. So we saw heard a presentation from staff regarding a strategic plan with some focus on things that we saw recently in the pandemic, and kind of using that as a platform of looking forward of how the county health department would address not only regular operations and services they provide to the community, but where they can learn from the pandemic and improve on. The other kind of thing that kind of relates back to Beavercreek Township, they did pass a resolution. This month was for the actual members of the Township Fire Department that volunteer their time at Russ Research Center for vaccinations. So they will be sending us a hard copy. I will share that with the fire chief, and then get copies to the staff that are listed. And this is on the fire department side. They already did one for the fire department auxiliary side of it. So this was just talking with the full-timers that donated their time to participate.
Nice.
Other than that, that's it.
School superintendent?
Schools, I haven't met with the superintendent. However, I did have a meeting with the city manager. We are looking, if everyone can look at their calendars, for September 20th for a joint meeting with city council. That would be their turn to host, so it would be at City Hall at 5 o'clock. And this would be our in-between meeting on in September. So this would be a special meeting. We will be working on an agenda that we will bring forward to both City Council and the Board of Township Trustees. If there are no conflicts, I'll get with the city manager on my next monthly meeting and go ahead and finalize that with City Council.
I can text you back.
I'll have to.
I don't have my calendar with me,
Okay.
so.
What day is it? September.
Yeah, Monday, September 20th
Yes.
at
I
5
may
o'clock.
have a conflict, but I have to.
I don't know.
I'll let you know.
I think I
Okay.
may too, and I don't know for sure.
But if Jessica can go,
Good
then
that day.
7 councilmen and 1
I
trustee.
can let you know this week. So
I'll
Okay.
let you know, yeah.
That's fine, just check. And if there's some conflict dates, I'll go back to the city manager and we'll work on some other dates. Okay.
What was the time?
5 o'clock.
Just won't put it in. Alright, let me know if that changes or
Okay.
is different.
That's all I had regarding the joint meeting, and Right Pat had no meeting. Okay.
Green County Township Association, we have a meeting tomorrow night at Caesars Creek Vineyards. Caesars Creek, New Jasper, and Spring Valley are the hosts, and then you have to RSVP to attend.
Great Investment Oversight Committee. I have nothing to report unless Mr. Rushing has something new to report.
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Otherwise, there's nothing else to come before the board. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G1, to consider the employment and compensation of public employees.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes. Thanks, Max. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
It is 6:28 p.m. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes. Who wants
Who
to
wants
read
to
it?
read it?
We have a resolution.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 20210712-admin-F, a resolution to assign duties to Township Administrator pursuant to ORC 505.032. Whereas the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township, Greene County, Ohio, has appointed the Township Administrator pursuant to section 505.031 of Ohio Revised Code, and whereas section 505.032 of the Ohio Revised Code permits a Board of Trustees which has appointed a Township Administrator to assign to such administrator any office, position, or duties under its control, and whereas the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township is of the opinion that assigning certain duties under its control to its township administrator would be more economical, would result in a more efficient use of township resources, and would allow for a more timely resolution of matters which arise during the day-to-day operations of the township, and whereas the performance of any such office, position, or duty by the township administrator would remain under the direction and control of the Board of Trustees. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in addition to the tasks to be performed by the township administrator, as required by section 505.032 of the Ohio Revised Code, the Board of Trustees, in accordance with section 505.032 of the Revised Code, hereby assign the following additional duties under its control to the township administrator. The administrator shall appoint all employees necessary for the efficient operation of the township except for any position appointed by fiscal officer, and fix their compensation in accordance with the compensation and reward policy section reward policy section 3, number 10, or any collective bargaining agreements. Prior to the employment of a township department head, the township administrator shall receive the consent of the Board of Trustees. The final candidates will be presented to the Board of Trustees for hire. At the annual Board of Trustee reorganization meeting, the township administrator shall provide and authorize staffing level for each department. Further there be it resolved that all former actions by the Board of Township Trustees concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution are being adopted at a duly called and authorized open meeting of the Board of Trustees on the date set forth above, such meeting being duly called pursuant to and in compliance with all legal requirements, including section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Trustee Deans?
Just discussion real quick. Mr. Zahari, we have a compensation plan in place now, so we have that as a reference. We have staffing levels for fire and EMS. Do we have staffing levels set for roads, for zoning, for HR, and for any other administrative departments?
Not by resolution, it is by budget, but not by resolution. So what I'll do is bring at your next trustee meeting, which since we canceled July, it'll be the first one in August. I'll provide a authorized staffing for the entire township, which includes what you already passed for the fire department. So it will include all positions under the Board of Township Trustees. And then every year we'll do it as a part of our reorganization. So at the reorganization meeting, that's either the last meeting in December or first meeting in January, when you're appointing all your committees and everything else, I'll have a resolution authorizing the staffing there as well.
And in the absence of that staffing level for the non-fire, non-EMS positions, should any vacancies occur between now and when you present that to us in 4 weeks from now or whenever that is, you'll maintain whatever historic staffing levels we have based on the current budget that we have.
Correct. It would only be what's already budgeted. If there's any changes, I'd still have to come back to do budget adjustments and
So if it took more than 4 weeks to,
correct,
then so be it. We have a budget. We live within the constraints of that.
Yep.
Okay. You can call, Mr. Rushing.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Krutz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. That's all I have for this
Anything
evening.
else to come before the board?
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Krutz?
Yes. Thank you.